Military members of Reddit, what is the most embarrassing this guy won't make it through basics story you have? Part 2. So, this is my favorite army story to tell. It's the best thing in the world, and I wish I could have had it on video. Army basic, you have a roster number, at least my group did, so they'd either call us by last name or roster number. I remember this guy's roster number because of this story, so we'll call him by that. This is the story of 215. We were out doing our land navigation course, and it has two parts. A day land navigation and a night land navigation. During the night phase, 215 was out trying to navigate to his points with his partner. He, for some reason, felt it would be a good idea to take off his cover hat. Well, the DSs are like ninjas in this area. They'll straight up materialize from behind a tree just to surprise you with a "you lost, private." 215 was spotted by a DS, and his lack of cover was noticed. DS calls out, "Private, where the F is your cover?" Poor, silly 215 calls back, "I left it at your mama's house." DS gets insta-pissed. Yells back, "What the F did you just say?" 215, that crazy kid, didn't catch on to the unfolding plot. So he yells back, "I said, I left it at your mama's house." For the next month, that particular DS would hunt for him in the formations. You could feel 215's will to live deflate every time we heard, "Hey, 215, where you at?" He'd have to answer, "Here, DS," and then prepare for as many push-ups and V-ups as the rules would allow. 215 ended up making it through his ordeal. I like to think he's out there somewhere now, an NCO himself, harassing new soldiers who speak before thinking like he did. When I was in the Marines, we were doing house clearing exercises with simulated grenades. Basically, they're just a hollow shell with a firecracker insides, so they work like real grenades, but just make a loud popping sound instead of actually exploding. So we come up to the door to this little shack, and the way it's supposed to work is our fire team of 4 guys lines up along the wall next to the door of the house we are about the breach. The first guy, me, stands right at the door frame with his rifle ready in case anyone comes charging out, while the second guy in line, AskReddit's resident dumbass, is supposed to hook a grenade around the first guy and through the doorway. Then you will wait until the grenade goes off and storm into the room right after the bang. First time this guy tries it, he throws it too far forward. Instead of going in the house, it hits the door frame on the other side and falls to the ground right at my feet and goes pop. The instructor looks at this guy behind me and goes, "Congratulations, dumbwit, you just killed your entire team." Then he gives him another fake grenade and says, "Try it again." This time, he gets it through the door, but instead of throwing at an angle, like you're supposed to so that it bounces off the walls and rolls around inside, making it hard for anyone that might be inside to grab it and throw it back out, he throws it straight in the doorway, so it hits the far wall and bounces straight back towards the doorway. It comes rolling out the door, lands at my feet, and goes pop. Now the instructor just has this look on his face, like WTF am I even supposed to do with this guy? But all he says is, "Alright dumbass, do you remember how they told you to do this in the training class?" Dumbass replies, "Not really sir, I wasn't really paying attention, since I didn't think I'd ever actually have to know it." The instructor is clearly pretty pissed over this. You didn't think you'd ever need to know how to use a grenade? You do realize you're in the goddamn Marine Corps, right? Well yes, but I play the flute. You play the flute. What the F does that mean? I'm a musician. In the Marine Corps band. The flute is my instrument. The instructor just stares at him for a moment, and I can almost see the moment when he just gives up on this guy. So you're telling me that, since you don't think you're ever going to have grenades in real life, you don't take this training seriously? Yes sir. At this point the instructor just grabs him and throws him on the ground. You just got taken out by a sniper. You're dead now. PFC Reithendorf, your fire team is now down a man, but the battle goes on. Clear this house without him. I served in a conscript army. Most everyone served, but generally unfit people did not go to combat units. We had one kid who transferred from a job into our unit for basic training. He said he wanted to be a fighter and that his super secret unit that he worked for in human logistics wanted to send him to our basic training and then bring him back so he could serve in their super secret special forces unit. Kid was 6 feet 6 inches and at least 360 pounds. An absolutely huge guy. He couldn't run, couldn't work out, couldn't carry anything substantial, couldn't contribute to the team. We can call him Snorlax. One night after a long ruck march we were forced to stay up all night and prepare for a company inspection. This was pretty normal, we would stay up and clean all of our gear, get everything in order, etc. and go through various levels of inspection. By the time the inspection came around we had been up for about 36 hours or so. We had marched and worked out in that time and everyone was hurting pretty bad. We were only 2 or so months into training at this point and still weren't used to the total mindfuck that the army can be. The hardest part about this whole inspection is having to stand still information during the entire frickin' thing. We were all beat, barely standing up, keeping just the minimum level of acceptable when this MFer starts crying. He starts crying in the middle of formation. He starts complaining that his legs hurt, that he can't stand up. No shit, your legs hurt. My legs hurt too. Everyone's legs hurt. Everyone wants to be done with this shit. The company commander, a captain, stops the inspection. Wonderful. This is already painfully slow and now we are at a standstill. The crying, blubbering, ginormous baby then has the nerve to sit the F down in formation. The captain looks at me, excessive excuses, pick up Snorlax, and help him stand for the rest of inspection. Mother effer. I can barely pick myself up at this point. My entire platoon gives me the biggest look of pity I have ever seen. It takes 3 of us to lift Snorlax off the ground and lean him on me. He was total dead weight. My knees were shaking. Barely able to hold up this mammoth of a man. Inspection continues. The captain walks over to me and starts inspecting my gear. My gear is normally perfect. I took pride in making it that way. The entire company used my gear as an example of how to do this. During my fiasco holding up Snorlax I had accidentally kicked one thing out of place. The captain saw it. He opened his mouth like he was about to chew me out, but he stopped. He looked me in the eyes and saw my disdain for him. Pure hatred. I was almost begging him to yell at me. I don't know what I would have done, but my anger chakra was raging. He looked down at my gear, back into my eyes, down at my gear again. Perfect job, excessive excuses. Thank you, sir, I replied. The inspection went on. Snorlax never stopped crying. When it was all over, I dumped Snorlax on the floor, put my gear away, and went to sleep. Snorlax dropped out about a month later. I have 2. The first was a 17-year-old kid who was in my platoon in boot camp. For the first couple of days he was the loudest, most obnoxious kid in the platoon. He wasted no opportunity to tell us what a badass he was. On the day our real drill instructors came on deck, in Marine Corps Ops boot camp you spend the first couple of days with recently graduated DIs who are much more easygoing than your actual DI. He pounded on our senior drill instructor's door in tears shouting something like, "Sir, this recruit isn't ready for Marine Corps boot camp. Please sir, this recruit is only 17 years old." He spent the next 2 days spending all day sitting on the floor facing a mirror until the MPs came on deck, handcuffed him, and dragged him away crying and screaming. Years later I rented a room in my house to an Air Force kid who had no idea how to use a washing machine, spent all of his downtime playing World of Warcraft, and had no idea how to cook, so would eat takeout for every single meal. He'd look at me like I was a wizard when I'd come home from the grocery store with fruits and vegetables. Once while I was cooking dinner he came into the kitchen and out of nowhere said something like, "You know my dick is bigger than yours, right?" I think I punched him. He ended up moving out not long after. That was about 10 years ago, and the last I heard he developed diabetes in no small part because of his terrible diet. In basic training, my camp was split into 4 companies. 2 of these companies were designed to train soldiers joining the technical trades of the British Army such as electricians, engineers, and specialists. Basic training for most people is an attendance course. You wake up in the morning, get messed around during the day, and then back to bed. Repeat for 6 months. Most people found this easy apart from recruit. Recruit was a complete turbo man. Recruit didn't shower. After complaining to our training team, the staff asked him to shower. Ignored the training team until they had to force him under a shower. We had to have a member of staff watch us shower in the morning to make sure he did it properly. Recruit once ran down the platoon lines exclaiming he had waterproofed his water bottle. Recruit fell over into the corner of his bed and knocked himself out clean. Recruit once took a shit so hard he passed out on the toilet. Rumor has it that he was found on the floor of the toilet with shit all up the wall. We had to clean this. Recruit forgot his ammunition on a section attack. Honestly, this kid was a complete man. He is now a serving Royal Engineer. He builds bridges for tanks. I don't know how well he is getting on now though. That's it for today. If you missed part 1, check it out here somewhere, and I'll see you tomorrow.